Hi, this is David, and I wanted to give a little bit of a update on my latest rig. This would be a 2022 Santa Cruz Heckler and the Bob Ibex trailer. This video is being made in Norway, and I do a fair amount of single track riding. I have another Santa Cruz Bronson, another, let's say, trail slash aggressive trail bikes. That's usually the way I'm riding, and that's the primary reason I bought this trailer. I see a lot of people buying trailers with two wheels. They're attached to the rear axle on single side. Typically, these like children's or family wagons, but those obviously will not work very well in single track. Most of the single track here that I ride through is quite rocky in roots, and a lot of turns, sharp turns, and I can go into more detail of how this trailer performs in those tight turns, which is significantly better than these other types of trailers that either attach to the seat post or to the rear axle. As you can see, where this attaches to the rear axle, but the actual pivot point for the rear trailer is behind the wheel. So it tracks very well with the line of the rear wheel, and it doesn't cut the corner. So you're able to take quite sharp turns, and that rear wheel and the trailer will track very, very well. So I'll focus more on providing a little bit of a closer look at the actual trailer. So we just came back, my wife and I, from just an overnight trip here in Nordmark, which is just north of Oslo. It's a massive, beautiful, I think it's, let's say, something like 25 mile by 25 mile, or like 40 kilometer by 40 kilometer uninterrupted forest, and this is just a brief view in the back. Beautiful lakes. A lot of we have a dog, and my wife has this trailer. I think it's I won't name the brand, but it's one of these family style with two wheels, and she's not, she rides, but she's definitely more on likes these gravel roads, and that's actually what we took today. We probably went maybe I don't know, 15 miles on mostly gravel road like this, which is very well maintained fire roads in Norway throughout the forests. But the single tracks here in Norway are really phenomenal as well. Really quite unmaintained single tracks, so nothing groomed, which is a great territory for the Santa Cruz Heckler. So the Heckler itself is a 2022 medium S build. I've made no modifications to it. I typically run pretty low tire pressure, usually I'd say 18 in the front, 20 in the back, if not a little bit lower. I think the only modifications, no, there's none. I've got time attack pedals, typical GX drivetrain, the Shimano EP8 motor, and the Shimano interface. I think maybe if I start making more of these videos, I think I'll make a specific video on the Santa Cruz Heckler. This build, I've had two design issues, I'll say, with this particular version. I've been in communication with Santa Cruz, and I'll say right up front that they are aware of both of these issues. Very honest and transparent, good communication. So here goes a couple of gravel bikers, which is very popular here in Nordmark. Coming back to the trailer, this is the Bob Ibex. Here in Norway, VAT tax, MVA is 25% tax, sales tax. It's crazy, stupid expensive, and therefore both of these setups are quite pricey. I did look at other trailers. There's, what is it? There's this other brand that, there's a couple brands that are kind of copying this, and they're cheaper for sure. I considered them. I looked at the overall build quality based on what I could see from videos and pictures, and I just said, you know what, it's not worth taking the, I'll say, the risk. More or less, I said I'm going to pay a couple extra $100 and get, let's say, the original bob. That I'm no expert on these trailers, nor on the use case. I know that these trailers, the bob, not the Ibex, but I think the solid rear axle version, I think they've been used in trail maintenance, used by trail maintenance crews for a long time. And I've seen videos of manual bikes, not e-bikes, and just people out pulling these things through small single track new trails and performing very, very well. The setup that I have, I guess one thing is the axle. I know, as I remember, I think the trailer itself comes kind of pre-configured as if you're going to use a skewer through axle, which is the very thin, small, of course, more of the aggressive, burly hubs are using through axles, and therefore you need in a very specific width, length, and diameter. I think this is, I don't remember the exact length, but it's something like a 10 millimeter diameter and like a 1/68 length is what Santa Cruz uses. I think it's Burtec is what the actual through axle was on this, and you need to use a special through axle so you can mount these hub attachments such that this rail can attach onto the rear axle. I know Robert Axle Project, I think is the one I'm using. I think it's $50-$75 plus shipping, plus tax, all that stuff. So call it $100 you're going to throw at an axle specific to this. The trailer does come with these two pieces and this pin, but effectively this is the way that you would actually remove this. Is you slide this down, you pull this pin out, it goes right through there. It basically holds the trailer down onto that spindle. So you're just going to slide that back through, and it goes in through here and it attaches into there. Excuse my dirty fingers, we were camping all night, so I'm digging at wood and dirt. And then slide this up and it just clips into that. I can't say enough about this trailer in terms of how satisfied I have been with the performance. The build quality is bulletproof. There's no folded sheet metal. It's all tubular alloy. It's very thick plates of steel here. These nylon bushings are great. The welds, you can see the welds are very well done. I shouldn't say I know. I don't really know. I think the Bob brand has been sold. So the IP and the product line has been sold a couple times. I think it's currently, as of 2024, even when I bought it last year, I think it's German. What is that? I want to get Scooter, some company in Germany. And when I bought this, actually, I bought it here in Norway through an online retailer that said it was in stock, but in fact, it was not in stock in Norway. I think it was in stock at the factory in Germany, and it took, I don't know, something like 3 weeks for it to be delivered. The trailer comes with the front piece. the trailer compartment. And I know that this Bob trailer comes in 2 different versions. And I debated whether I wanted, as far as the rear suspension, whether I needed it, whether it's of any real value. I see a lot of the trail builders just using the fixed rear wheel setup. But I thought that with a given amount of weight, let's say 20 kilograms of cargo, having some level of suspension would allow the bike and the trailer as a system to handle better in even going on fire roads with some modulation or potholes, but in more so even on, like I said, on the single track trails where there's a lot of roots. I didn't want that back trailer to be completely bouncing around, because the rear wheel, I have to run a fairly high pressure on the rear wheel because it does have a tube. So yeah, and I think I even paid more for the suspension feature. Let's call it another $50 or whatever it is, $100 on top of the base price for the base model. But it does have a couple different settings for different suspension settings. There's 3. You basically push this knob in, and that releases the position at which it's holding into these notches right here. But there's basically three settings, 1, 2, 3, for these respective different weights or loads. It looks like, yeah, from kilogram. So the low one here is 11 kilo, this is 20 kilo, and 32 kilo. Yeah, I just guessed it earlier. I said 20 kilo, which I guess is what I've got in here right now. I've got maybe 3 liters of water, some sleeping bags, and half a kitchen, just normal 1 overnight, 2 night stays. It does perform quite well as far as that suspension, as I said. Let me see if I can push down on it. Yeah, you can see it. It does certainly react. I know that there's a piston as well as the spring. I'm not sure if there's an active. No, I think that piston is probably, let's say, passive. There's no cartridge for air to be applied. So it's probably just the spring, but it's quite good. I won't say anything really, nothing to say bad about it. Maybe this rear fender, it is effective. However, I think the overall design was a little bit of a, or at least the application of who their supplier is for these and how it was mounted onto the trailer. I think that was an afterthought, because I've had to do a little bit of a modification. I think that the original had the screw here, and I think there was 1 screw here. I think it's from the inside, or if that's a tab, I don't remember exactly. But there was 1 screw, maybe not even a screw. No, it's just a tab. And then there's a screw on the other side. But you can see there's now 2 bolts, because, yeah, that's good. You can see down in there. So because the 2 screws they had on the side, with I think that 1 tab or 1 screw, with the weight of this and going over bumps and stuff, that 1 tab right here broke through. The screw head popped through the plastic. There wasn't maybe just barely enough tension for a washer, I think, as I remember, something like this, that this just basically would then it would just pivot right here, and the whole fender would just slide down. So I modified everything. I used 2 pieces of thick plastic. Basically, I think they were cutting board. I just took 2 pieces and fabricated that setup in there, and it's been working. It works great. So that those two pieces of plastic are now more securely mounted directly to this, and it provides a solid tab, more structure for that fender. That is the only thing that I have done to this. Let's see. They have these. I'm glad that they added this. This same kind of thick poly material that's, I think, screwed. Yeah, there's 2 screws, or maybe riveted to the frame itself. So you're able to technically, if this tips over, if you want to lie it down, it's going to lie on the right side or the left side, which I never do, because I don't want to put the torque pressure on the axle and the bike frame. Obviously, with a carbon frame, I try to keep it as upright as possible, and minimize any kind of torque. You can see the way I park it is basically leaning it, keeping it as vertical as possible, and leaning it just on some surface on the side rails. And when it's unloaded, that's probably the trickiest part, is parking it. Once you're riding, it just handles extremely well. It tracks well with the bike. I think as far as the speed, it's rated, I think it's rated pretty fast. I want to say something like 35 miles per hour. I don't know what the number is, 45. And quite frankly, I've gone that fast, and it handles extremely well. With the e-bike, of course, you can go, 25 miles per hour, but on a downhill, on gravel, you can easily get up to 50 kilometers per hour. Which I have on the bike alone, and I think I've gotten this trailer going pretty fast. Only one time did it get even a little bit, but nothing. I mean, nothing to even speak of. It just tracks super well. I think it's because the center of gravity is so low for whatever load. I try to always keep whatever I have as far as heavy things to the front and low, and yeah, it just tracks it in just a perfectly straight line, and it doesn't. I think there was one suggestion or said that the trailer wants to get in front of you, which obviously means, a little bit coming around or going faster than the bike, or especially if you're applying your brakes in the front, whether the back has a tendency to want to become a little bit more unstable, or the trailer wants to become a little more unstable and want to come around. But I've never had that. I mean, it just sticks with you. You don't even know it's there, besides the fact that you've got 30 kilo maybe total that you're dragging around. I mean, it's undeniable. But obviously with a pretty burly e-bike, you're basically, you got a mini truck set up here that's just going to pull. Normally when I ride the e-bike, I'm riding on eco mode. So the bike with the EP8 has the modes of, off. Well, you have off, eco, trail, and boost. And I mostly ride in that eco line. The eco mode for me is just perfect, because it effectively, for me, the way it's set up, and I know you can customize it, which I have not. But the eco mode just compensates enough for the extra weight, as far as I'm considered, for the battery. When you're riding, and this is my first e-bike, and I've been against e-bikes forever, and I just love riding manual for the agility and the lightness of that frame. I'll be able to throw a bike around the trails, and I won't go into all of the debate, discussions, and advantages, disadvantages. Not even that. The features of each bike discipline, respectively, but I've come to really appreciate and love this e-bike. I do still ride my Bronson, and I can kind of, maybe in a different video, go into more detail of comparing those two bikes, because I think it's a V2 version 2 Santa Cruz Bronson from 2018, which I love, because it has, as far as the rear shock, the adjustment for the compression is very close to the top where I can actually reach it. I know in later versions of the Bronson, they've pushed that shock down to the bottom, near the bottom bracket, which makes it that much more, let me say, more difficult, or to actually flip that switch for that compression. Which for me, I need to be able to access that flip switch, not flip chip, but flip switch for the compression on the shock really quickly, because I'm actually using that a lot. And on single track trail, that's very technical, up and downhill and through different sections. I manage that shock very well, I think, and I really appreciate having quick access to it. We're having to reach down an extra 15-20 centimeters. You gotta have the time and opportunity to do that, and sometimes you just don't. So I know that some people are saying, well, with the newer suspension on the latest versions of the Bronson, the suspensions are just so dialed that you don't even need to touch that. I like it. I use that feature quite a bit, shockingly or surprisingly. You can see right now, I have this set up in the medium locked in position here, and I have that locked out just to keep that rear suspension quite stiff. Normally on this bike, actually, I do leave it in the climb position, unless I know I'm doing some more aggressive downhill where I want the back suspension to be a little bit more compliant. But I do use the front quite often, much more probably. And on my Bronson, I use both. Very actively in all my trail riding. On this bike, I primarily only use the front actively in the trail, for the same reason I was just describing. To reach down to here, it's just a little bit more difficult, and it takes the coordination, time, and opportunity on a trail that's, you've got your attention in other places, so you end up just dealing with whatever configuration it was last set in. All right, I think that's about it. If you're interested in more detail of either this trailer, this bike, and or my Bronson or other content, certainly let me know, because I'll be happy to provide a bit more information. All right, see ya, bye.